everyone, Kimberly Berg here, clinical exercise physiologist with the Rebel Fit Club. Today I'm going to bring you some stretching exercises to prepare you for your gardening day, and then some quick stretches that you can do throughout the day. So we're going to start out standing. I have my imaginary garden here. I have some ordinary garden nailers, you can get those at the dollar store, and a folding chair. We're going to start out first by just warming up your body. I want you to walk around or do something where you're getting your blood pumping, because doing some cold stretches is never a good idea. So let's assume we spent 5 to 10 minutes warming our bodies up, and now we're going to do some stretches. Gardening requires us to do a lot of flexion and a lot of twisting, so we're going to do just the opposite and warm the body up. So we're going to start by putting our hands on our low back, lifting our heart up and stretching back. Then you're going to slowly roll your spine down. Be careful of your blood pressure and your balance. And we're going to stack our spine back up and roll it back. Hands on the small of your back. Lift your heart again, extend back, and slowly roll down. You can do this a few times just to warm up your spine. The next thing we're going to do is some rotation. You want to really get that whole body rotating all the way from your feet to your upper back. And your eyes can follow you with this. Only go as fast as your balance and your equilibrium will allow, so we don't want you to get dizzy. So you're really rotating that. Do that as many times as feels good to you. Then one of the most important things is you have to get your hips activated, because if your glutes and hips are turned on, then you're less likely to hurt your back. So we're going to start out by sitting in a chair and coming up several times. Now I'm sitting down, I'm hinging. Hinging is the key to safe gardening. So you're going to come up, really extend, so you're getting those hip flexors extended, aim your sit bones back at the chair, and we're going to do this, 10 to 20 times. But you could start out with just 10, and you can do it really, really slow coming up, squeeze those glutes, raise up, and coming down. And see how I'm hinging right here, keeping my back straight, but I'm coming into a soft landing on the edge of the chair. So once you're out at the garden, my pretend garden here, some people have raised beds. I'm going to start down here because this is the most problematic scenario, is when you're gardening on the ground. So you want to have a folding chair close at hand. I'm going to turn the chair backwards. So say for instance we are gardening here. A lot of times what happens, I'm going to turn sideways, is that you're rounding your back in the wrong place versus hinging back and working like this with your core engaged. So we're going to do some stretches to help remind your body how it's supposed to move when working with lower levels. You're going to hinge back, hands are up here, so we're getting a good stretch through here, and you're going to lift your heart. And we're going to do this 5 times. This is also the stretch that you're going to do when you take breaks, because we only want you working 20 to 30 minutes at a time. You absolutely have to think of gardening like you would a workout. You would never spend 12 hours in a gym working out. These are things that you haven't been training for, so you have to be really careful about the time that you spend doing one task. So every 20 to 30 minutes you're going to hinge several times, up and down. Good. And you can do some more twisting and just really get that good extension. Come out of those flexed positions, especially if you have Parkinson's, because that is what is trying to happen to your body anyway. So you want to get that good extension. Anytime you're working on a project, I don't care if it's cooking, if it's crafts, if it's gardening, you have to keep the project close to your body, not so that you're reaching. So if I'm here gardening and I'm reaching way over there, that's a scenario for your back to hurt, is if you're reaching away, or if you're pulling, or if you're pushing. Your low back has to take that load. If you're standing up and you're reaching over here, if you have raised beds and you're here, that low back is trying to right you. And so people do that and they don't even realize that just a few of these can cause your low back to just scream. So please make sure that your load, and if you're lifting, you're not just straight leg lifting or rounding your back to lift, that you're actually using really good biomechanics. Use that squat that we started with and pick up your load. The other thing that I want you to remember is if you're carrying buckets of something, make sure your load is balanced, because if you're carrying something like this, you can imagine what that's doing to your back. It's better to have 2 lighter loads and more loads than to do a few really heavy loads on one side. I mean, these things are really basic, but they're things that people make mistakes with, and it happens all the time. The other thing that you want to remember is that, stepping over things, so that you're not trying to put yourself in a precarious situation where your back is in a bad position or your knees are in a bad position. Twisting is a big problem. Make sure and turn your whole body when you're moving things around, because if you are twisting and bending at the same time, that's a really bad scenario for your back. So make sure and position yourself. It's all about positioning. Take breaks when you need to do the stretching. And the other thing is, make sure that when you're working on heavier loads, take breaks from that to do the little dexterity things. So maybe you're raking and you want to make sure that you're doing bilateral. So you're raking maybe 10 times on this side, 10 times on this side. Take a break and go to some planting where you're doing something more, a smaller, lighter task. Then you can go back to some heavier one, whatever it is. You have to alternate it. Think of it as training. You would never do a whole bunch of heavy things without intertwining some lighter stuff in there, because it is a recipe for disaster for your back. If you like this video, please click the subscribe button below or go to our website at rebelfitclub.com and subscribe to our weekly blog filled with great exercises for people with Parkinson's. You can also contact me to become a member of our great workout program. We're doing live virtual programs right now, and when we get back in the club, you can do a combination of the two. Thank you so much for listening, and go forth and conquer.